The candidates in the race for Senate squared off Tuesday night in a contentious debate. Colin Allred and Ted Cruz met face-to-face for the first time at WFAA in Dallas. The debate came at a critical time, just days before the start of early voting. Both candidates looking to shore up support. New polling from the Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas shows Cruz now holds a 7-point lead over Allred. That's just outside the poll's margin of error. Libertarian Ted Brown polled at 4%. The historic stakes of this election had both candidates going on offense, hoping to win over voters.
Can I take his time and answer?
No, you can't have my time.
But what I'm saying,
you can jump in after me.
Fireworks in the fight for Senate Tuesday night.
You know, this is somebody who goes to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun. Do you really think he cares about inflation?
Colin Allred and Ted Cruz trying to burn down the other's bipartisan pitch.
Congressman Allred and Kamala Harris are both running on the same radical agenda.
He's been one of the most divisive senators in the entire country.
For months, both candidates have been selling their appeal to the other side.
Both Senator Cruz and Congressman Allred need to paint each other as outside the mainstream. Ryan, you have seen that throughout this campaign, both guys have tried to portray themselves as bipartisan problem solvers.
But the most divisive issues took precedence.
The Transgender Bill of Rights explicitly, and he co-sponsored it, mandated that boys compete against girls' sports.
What he wants you thinking about is kids in bathrooms, so you're not thinking about women in hospitals, because it's indefensible.
Both hoping Texans connect with their Texan biographies, recognizing the historic stakes of this election. We want to go a little deeper into the debate and the race for Senate. Joining us now for Insight is John Moritz, the chief politics reporter for the Austin American-Statesman, and James Henson, executive director of the Texas Politics Project at UT Austin. Welcome to you both. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be.
John, I want to start with you. This was a big chance for both candidates to make their impressions on undecided voters, both of them. Do you think that there was any standout moments where they were able to speak to maybe voters that wouldn't normally vote for them?
I think for Allred, the challenge was to become known to those who haven't been paying attention or just now tuning in. I think his biggest moment was when he basically said, I was ready to do battle with the insurrectionists, and Senator Cruz was hiding in a closet. I think if people were just kind of looking at, is this guy up to the task? Does he have the wherewithal to be a fighter for Texas? I think that was probably his best chance to do that. I don't want to step on James's message about the undecided votes and where they might be, because he's more knowledgeable and has fresher information. But that was my takeaway.
Well, sure. Let's go to Jim. Your new poll always asks what issues are most important for voters, right, and they consistently tell us that is the economy. For Republicans especially, it's immigration and border security. The debate, though, focused on some of the most divisive niche issues that maybe don't rank as high, like abortion, like transgender rights. Where do those issues rank in terms of how voters tell us they are important?
Well, abortion is in the top 3 or so for Democrats. Because Democrats this cycle look like we've seen them look in the past. There's no one issue that dominates what Democrats are interested in. But abortion is in the top 3, and so I wasn't surprised to see Colin Allred want to talk about that, nor was I surprised to see Ted Cruz not want to talk about that, because where abortion policy is in the state right now has kind of gotten ahead of where Republican public opinion is, and I think that's why I think you almost saw, I thought, a little bit of somewhere between relief and enthusiasm when the first question in the debate was about abortion.
Right. Your poll gives Cruz a 7-point lead. That's a little bit more favorable than we've seen. Kind of the average is like 3 to 5 points for Cruz. But I'm wondering, how does that rank with how, say, Beto O'Rourke was polling at this point in the race in 2018? Do we have any insight there?
Yeah, it's pretty close, actually. I think O'Rourke might have been a point or two better overall. I think the most interesting thing in that poll was in that comparison, and you're talking about undecided voters, right, and where the campaigns are targeting, is that O'Rourke in 18, Allred in 24 in October, they look very similar among independents, right? People with loose party attachments, only 8 or 9% of the electorate probably, right, true independents, but remarkably close, and so I think if you're Colin Allred, you feel like that's a pretty good sign with a few weeks to go.
Both campaigns are trying to flex their crossover appeal, right? You have Ted Cruz touting Democratic endorsements and vice versa with Allred. You did some reporting about how each campaign is trying to do that. Can you elaborate a little bit on why crossing over to the other party may help these campaigns?
Well, crossover is nothing new in Texas. It goes back to the 1950s, mostly because there's always been a dominant party, and so not everybody in that dominant party is going to be on board, and sometimes not everybody in the minority party is going to be on board. But what the key here is for Allred, it shows, or it reinforces his message that he's the most bipartisan member of the Texas delegation, and for Cruz, it sort of softens the notion that he is this hard right partisan, no compromise, take no prisoners. If he can get a Kim Ogg, even though she was voted out of her own party in the primary, if he can get some of these sheriffs and elected officials in South Texas, many of whom are Hispanic, to basically become his voice, vouch for him, that does take some of the rough edge off of Ted Cruz's reputation for the last 12 years or more.
Right, and same with Allred. I mean, he's touting the Liz Cheney endorsement, who also was voted out of the Republican Party.
And that's the other thing, is a lot of these crossover political figures have nothing to lose. They've been basically exiled from their own island and are swimming around looking for a new one.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get in trouble. John, Jim, I feel honored just to be at this table with you two. Some expert insight. Thank you very much for joining us.
Works both ways.
Great to be here.
A bombshell order from a Texas federal court could bring a sudden end to a 13-year legal battle over how the state cares for children in its foster care system.